My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you for pardon of my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. In the Gospel today, we're told the story of the death of St. John the Baptist. But the way St. Mark tells us the story gives us an insight into what kind of man King Herod was. To describe what kind of man he was, we're told that he didn't have any problem marrying his brother's wife, Herodias, or at least trying to. He seems to be like a rogue king, a man who got whatever he wanted, no matter the cost. However, when we read the Gospel of St. Mark, we find a few features that allow us to think that he may not have been the kind of man who could instill fear, let alone attract any respect, really. Apparently, people started talking about you, Jesus, giving their opinions about who you could be. It was a bit like the social media of the time, the Twitter, the Instagram of the first century. Everybody commenting on you, Lord. Some likes, some dislikes, and comments, lots of comments. And without any shame, people were pouring out their opinion, stating all sorts of theories. That you, Lord, were Elijah, that you were one of the prophets. Some even stated that you could be John the Baptist himself. What a nonsense! John had had his head chopped off a few weeks earlier. But when it comes to these sorts of trends in social media, it is almost a requirement that you vote for one of the options. And so Herod voted for this last proposal. How could a guy believe that nonsense and rule a country? I mean, how could that guy be a king? This is the paranoia that sometimes takes over when everybody is allowed to publish their opinion on anybody. But the thing that attracts my attention is the fact that the king just followed the trends like a sheep. And that was just one instance of his lack of character. Because when we read the account of the death of St. John the Baptist, we are told that Herod had arrested John because of Herodias. So it was his second wife, the wife of his brother, who told him to do it. And he just obeyed. You see, Herod gave in to peer pressure. Now we know that he wasn't keen on the idea of arresting John, because a few verses later, St. Mark says that Herod feared John, knowing him to be a righteous and holy man. Herod feared John, and he should, for John certainly was a righteous and holy man. But how bizarre, a king who should instill respect, and instead, he's afraid. First, afraid of Herodias, who made him do what he didn't want to do, and then afraid of John. We are told that Herod liked to listen to John. That means that John wasn't spending his conversation time just reminding Herod that he couldn't take his brother's wife. There were more things in those conversations, I guess. John was probably trying to make Herod understand, because the Baptist, like the saint that he was, hadn't given up on Herod. So they maybe chatted every now and then, and John managed to leave Herod perplexed, thinking, who knows, maybe John was getting close to the heart of that corrupted man. Maybe there was still a chance to change the man. I want to believe that you, Lord, sent John to give Herod a chance to change. But he didn't take it. And it wasn't because Herod declined the offer, but because he was a coward. He gave in to peer pressure. St. Mark tells us that Herod liked to listen to John, but he was scared of what other people thought, what other people said. Because we know that he didn't want to kill John, but Herodias did. And she managed to put him in a situation where he had to do what she wanted. You remember well the story. Herodias' daughter dancing and the request for the head of St. John the Baptist. So the idea was simple. If you don't do it, all these people will think that you are not a man of your word. The king was deeply distressed. We read in the Gospel. He really didn't want to kill John. He really knew that John was a righteous and holy man. He knew it wasn't right, but he was afraid of the guests. What would people say if I don't do it? What would people think? Now, does it remind you of another ruler and another death, of another innocent holy man? How much Pilate and Herod had in common. No wonder that they ended up being good friends. Birds of a feather, birds of prey in this case. It is the same story. Neither Herod nor Pilate wanted to kill the innocent, but both did it because of what people would say. How many evil things are done for giving in to peer pressure? You see, one thing is to know that something is right, and another thing is to have the courage to do the right thing, no matter what. And Herod, like Pilate, never inspired anybody. The people who inspire are those who are able to defend the innocent life, even at the cost of their reputation and good name. In 2003, the American Film Institute voted for the greatest hero of American cinema. And the winner was Atticus Finch, the main character of the film To Kill a Mockingbird, portrayed by Gregory Peck in the 1962 film adaptation of the novel. He was the greatest hero of all American cinema, and we know why. Atticus Finch was a man with courage, someone who does the right thing, who follows his conscience, no matter what people think. In one of his most famous quotes, Harper Lee puts into the mouth of Atticus Finch the following words: "The one thing that doesn't abide by majority rule is a person's conscience." And you may have read the novel or watched the film. I recommend both. They are masterpieces in their own right. Atticus Finch is attacked. His children are attacked. He is the object of all kinds of abuse. But he doesn't back up. He knows there is an innocent life to defend, and he does it. Atticus Finch also admits that he couldn't worship God if he didn't help Tom Robinson, the black man who has been unjustly accused. Those are the heroes that we love. Jesus, in our time, we need more of those who do the right thing, whatever people think or say about them. Jesus, I ask you for the courage to stand up for the truth and to never yield to peer pressure, to the opinion of the majority, to what other people think. This is why Atticus Finch is the greatest hero of all American cinema. Scout, the daughter of Atticus Finch, says about him, "It was times like these when I thought my father, who hated guns and had never been to any wars, was the bravest man who ever lived." Mary, my Mother Immaculate, gave me the courage to stand up for the truth, no matter what people think or say about me. I give you thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask you for help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.